guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gimp with a Limp, and I'm here with one that's definitely different from my usual. I tend to cover mainly board games, digital, board game, doesn't matter. Board games are my purview. But like I've said before, the dungeon crawler RPGS games are my guilty pleasure. They have been for a while. But it takes a special one for me to actually take the time to film it. Core Space, Malodom, one of my favorites. I've loved that one. I've done a whole lot of videos on it. Core Space is close enough to wargaming to really to fit in, but I don't cover too many of the RPGs. But this one that came in really tickled my fancy. I thought they did an excellent job with it, so I wanted to cover it, give it a little extra publicity, because I know some of you guys out there, like me, have a wider taste when it comes to video game, not just video games, but board games. So if you're into other stuff besides just the war games, you might like to know about this one. So we're going to go down to the table, give a quick example of play, let you guys see how the game plays, and then we'll come back here for some final thoughts. All right, so here we are down at the table. I've got the game set up. We're going to go through just a quick example, and I'm actually using their example of play because the game comes with an example of play. And that is excellent that they take the time to do that. The rule book is quite good, but they have a fully fleshed out example of play, and for each one of the different paths. So think the class, ranger, warrior, mage, that type of stuff. For each one of them, they've got an example of play for that as well, to kind of give you the basics of how your character is going to operate. So you have 6 individual basic examples of play, one actual example of play that's going to walk you through the first few areas here, a few examples of combat, exploring, talking to people, doing events, doing all that, gaining experience points. So it gives you that jump off that you need in a game like this. So you're not just sitting there looking at the board going, oh, it's so big, what do I do now? Well, they walk you through it so that by the time you're done, the first few areas are explored. You've gone down into the actual map itself. I've got it set up here. We'll talk about that here in a sec. You understand what all your character boards mean. You know how combat works. It really is one of the better examples of play that I have seen in a game like this. And like I said, I don't usually cover RPGs anymore. I mainly just stick to the war games now, digital or board games. But when it comes to these games, like I said, they're my guilty pleasure. And this one is so good. They did such an excellent job with it that I was like, you know what? I've got to show it off. I've got to show some people, so in case someone missed it, they might have a chance to grab it while there's still copies out there to get, because this one is worth getting. And I know I can't be the only one who has an eclectic taste when it comes to games. I don't like just war games. I like a little bit of everything. So if you're like me, you like a little bit of everything, Arydia is one of those that you definitely want to keep your eyes peeled for. All right, so what you see here is this is our world map. And as we go along, these little hexes are going to be revealed. They are all set into this triple layered board, and it's done that way. So these are basically permanent. Once you flip them, they lock in there pretty tight. I can't really pull that one back out. But it is designed in such a way that the corner here can be pushed down on fairly hard, and that will cause it to pop up. Then you can flip it over and slot it back in. When you do so, you will see a bunch of little icons here on the map. We start off here in the Exiles camp. That's who we are, the Exiles. This is our little token to represent our party. And if an area has things that you can do in it, it will list it down here. So for example, this has Big Zero. It's a guild, so we can do guild actions here. That's like leveling up and repairing gear, buying stuff. And any points of interest are going to be listed down here as well. Then when it comes to traveling to the other hexes, you have to have an actual path, and that will be designated by these symbols that you see around here. So you can only travel to other hexes that you actually have a valid path for, and that will show, like here, that's a little road symbol, or if you're going across a field, it'll have different symbols, and that will come into play as we travel and we do our like day actions crossing these paths. This is considered like fast travel on the world map of like Witcher 3, think something like that, right? And when you're doing something like this, and you have certain tokens that will represent your hunger or your stamina or your morale as you are doing that, but you can't cross where there isn't an icon. So we can't make this little leap across the water here. We can see there's land over here, but we can't get to it this way. We're going to have to take the long way around to get over there. For our example play, though, we are going to start here in the Exiles camp. We're going to go ahead and dive down into the big 0, which is the little map that I've already got set up over here. All right, so you see here, here's our map. It's got the little big 0 down there where our little party is going to come on. And when you are in these areas, you're either going to be in adventure mode or you're going to be in combat. When you're in adventure mode, you can pretty much move as you please, interact with the different events or the persons of interest, the NPCs around the map. You can do that all freely as you wish, without any restrictions, no movement points or anything like that. Once combat gets into play, though, you have to worry about movement points and lines of sight and all that good stuff. But right now we are in adventure mode, so we don't have to worry about that. We can send our guys willy-nilly however we want to go. And just again, to show you the characters, I do have a warrior, so the red path, a mage, blue path, a healer, cleric, that is the yellow path, and a ranger, which is the green path. And of course, since I am playing with my girls, they just had to pick the cat. They love the cat character, so they had to put her into the game. That one represents one of my little girls. This one, the healer, represents my oldest daughter, and my middle daughter. No, wait, my youngest daughter. She's taken that one, and oldest daughter liked this one with the little purple headband. She wanted this body, even though it's not the right path that she wanted. She wanted to be the mage one. So I had to kind of mix and choose a little bit with that so she could have the body that she wanted. But you see, they're already pre-painted and everything. And for me, I like rangers. I always use bows in mine. And I picked the dwarf head because he has a nice big beard and I have a big beard. So it fit with my character. So that's the 4 characters, and you can only have 4 characters. You can drop in, drop out. You can play with just 1. You can play with 2, 3. It's completely up to you how many characters you want to have in the map. And if you want to have someone who jumps in here or there, there's rules for that. So you don't have to always have 4. If someone in your gaming group can't make it, that's fine. You play with less, or someone plays their character. Either way, it all works out fine. Now, just to give you a quick example, here is an example of a player board. There are 3 of these for each one of the different characters. This one's the equipment board, as you can see. This is the mage, the tines. So she's got a little S-stock in the tines, which is like the little spell casting thing. When it comes to the stats, don't take my stats that you see here as gospel. I gave them a point or 2 extra on health since my girls are young. They're like 5, 6. So I wasn't holding to a high standard with it. So some of the characters you see might not match exactly with the stats that come with the game, but understand I'm playing with young ones. So I'm giving them a little bit of a break, but I'm keeping everything else as is. So this is her little set of starting equipment, and there are cards that explain all this stuff, reference cards that come with each one of the character paths. For example, for the blue one, the Path of Arcana, this is the tuck box, which will have that. It's going to have the little wooden tokens, your D20, and all of your reference cards in there to help explain all of their equipment. You will also have another character board that's going to keep track of your skills, your little portrait, your who you are. This one is my daughter that's a little mean, so she got the gruff. I always thought that that was nice. It fit her. Any stats that you have that have extra points added to them. So for a mage, intelligence and wisdom goes along with that. So she has those stats listed. My warrior has things like strength and endurance, and the ranger has things like dexterity, just like you would have in any RPG-esque game. All the different types of races have special abilities. This one is dependable. She can pay this point that refreshes when you rest. That's what that icon means. and pay this to gain a couple of combo points. That comes in handy in combat. The skills you have learned are here. You can gain skills during a level up, but then you have to master the skills to actually use them. So you will originally put new skills face down, and once you master them, you get to flip them over. Very, very cool system. Any experience points that you have slot in very nicely here. All the components are really top notch. Those skills that I'm talking about, there is a character board for each one of the characters. As you see, it's known as triple layered boards, and you can punch these out just like you would do the ones on the hex for the main map. Pull them out, whichever ones that you learn as you level up. Some of them require learning the previous ones before you can learn the follow-on ones. This is like freeze and talons, wall of stone, all cool spells, just like you expect like a mage to have. Really, really cool stuff. But you'll slot this into the board. And there are even little tokens that you can put in here as a check mark to keep track of which ones that you have learned in between games as kind of like a save state. All right, so let's start out a little bit and move forward, and we will interact with our first thing here, which is going to be event 13. So we can remove this token to signify the fact that we have interacted with it. And there's a huge deck of cards that you will pull from. In this case, we have event 13. Remember, this is all the quick start stuff, so I'm not really spoiling any story items. That's why I'm filming this one. For this, we have Around the Camp. Gives a little blurb here where he goes on talking in the story and crowd erupting with laughter, and then he eyes the new exiles cautiously. It's good to see new faces. Where have you been exiled from? We have multiple different options. For this one, it's not going to matter what we say, mountains, forest, city, or desert. You can play this like a role-playing game where a DM will ask the questions and let the players respond. Once you have your answer, you flip it over. You see here, it's any answer, but for others, it will have different answers down below, and some of them can have follow-on conversations that will have you drawing new cards. If answer of, yes, I should have guessed by the smell. More laughter. This man slaps his companion on the back as they saunter off shortly. The crowd begins to disperse. Exiles mill about, tightening packs, sharpening swords, and preparing for the day ahead. Gain 1 XP and shear this card in half. No, just means banish the card so it gets tucked away, never to be drawn again. We have fully interacted with it, so we can't continue to interact with it to gain more XP. You can reset the game to its base state, though, by keeping track of which cards are banished. In this case, we gain a single XP, so you will slot that onto each of your player boards, just like I was showing you earlier, right here. So we'll put that right there to signify that she now has 1 XP, and everyone will gain 1 XP altogether. Some rewards will be dependent and only go to a single person. They might be path related, or they might be money related. So you'll have to decide who gets the cash, but generally XP points will be awarded to each party member. All right, so our party has interacted with that event. Let's go ahead and go to NPC 0, and we will interact with him to see how we want to handle this. There will be times where you have potential combatants, or you're exploring a new area, and you definitely want to organize your characters in the proper order. So for me, I would want my mage and ranger to be in the back because they're not upfront fighters. I'll definitely always have my cat lead the way, and probably have the healer next to him as kind of a cleric because she's able to take a little bit more damage as well. But these two are meant to fight from range. So we draw MP0 and we get the guild leader. A weather-beaten man stands here watching exiles practice. He turns to you as you approach. All that training, the day has arrived. Time to get out there and do guild proud. If you want a little warm-up before you go hunting squills, squills are like the special currency you're trying to get to free yourself, you can fight the practice dummy one more time. Let me know when you're ready to leave. this is one of those things when you, again, can choose something to say. So, hey, let's ask about that practice dummy. And you see each one of these are highlighted as potential options. So we flip it over. So we see flip it over here, and I was working on a more powerful dummy, one that would really challenge you, but it's gone missing. Anyway, the old one still works fine. When you're ready, head up to the field and I'll get you going. Here is a role play point. When you select this as a option, you can gain a role play point, and that's for doing like DM stuff. But yes, everyone can use those, and it's basically a hey, you get a free reroll. All right, so this is what I really, really love about this game and why it is so expansive. Because remember, there are hundreds of these types of cards of all the different sizes, big, medium, small, and long, to create all these different areas. This is just a single card. Now we're going to ignore this other NPC for a second because it's ignored in the example play, and I want to stick close to that for now. But it tells the adventurers to go forward. We see there's an exit here that says medium 0. Well, in that case, you will gather here the medium card, and bam, look at that. It lines up perfectly with the card that we have here. And now we have this whole new area to go to, and this one has a foe. Now, yes, we do need to put our adventurers up here first before we do that. So we'll have our adventurers go there. Actually, I'm going to put my archer and mage more like that, have them attack from a distance. All right, so we have our little map here. It's set up, and we have now revealed one that has a foe on it. This one says foe number 0 on it. So when that happens, you will gather up the cards for the foe and punch out the little foe's miniature, which in this case is a practice dummy. How freaking cute is that? I love it. I love it. There's actually a miniature for a little practice dummy there. So you will have a couple of different cards for it. One will show a picture of the enemy. We'll have it listed here as well. It'll list down what type it is. Most will either be a mob or a boss monster. In this case, this is just a basic mob. Flipping over, this shows us our target for killing it. So we have to wipe out all of its health. It's got 8 points listed across here. And then here is its actions. This is what it'll do based on how much threat is accrued. We'll show threat here in a second as we play. So we've got our couple little cards here set up. We'll set those there to the side. We'll leave that one there so it's ready to go. And there's one other thing that we have to mark on that little dummy, and that is the fact that he has armor right there where his shield is. So when we are attacking him, that has to be taken care of. We have to be able to punch through his armor, which luckily I do have some abilities that will take care of that. All right, and also we have a threat deck here. This threat deck will control how our mobs are going to activate. So we need our threat deck, we need our mobs. We flip over our token into combat mode, and then all we have to do is grab our little combo and threat tracker here. We'll place it. Well, I don't have a spot easily set on camera. All right, there we go. Back the camera out just a little bit to make it easier to be seen. This is our threat tracker. So we will gain combo points. He will gain threat, depending on what card is drawn. And let's just play it so you guys can see how this works. We'll draw our first card. First card is going to be boss or 1 threat. He's not a boss, so he gains 1 threat. All right, so we'll place our little combo tracker here so it's easy able to be seen. Back up the camera just a little bit. We'll place our threat deck right here so we're ready to go. And to make this easy, I'm just going to explain as we go along, but we'll draw the top card here. Top card is mob or 1 threat. So let's set that to the side. That means he's going to activate. I'm activating my warrior first, and each time one of your characters activate, you'll draw a threat card and then activate your character. So the bad guys get to go first, kind of. They will always have a list of things that they will do depending on the amount of threat they have. In this case, they have no threat, so they are going to do this. They're going to move 4 movement points, prod plus 2 threat. So We'll gain the 2 threat. Set that back down. And then we'll move 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it tells us that they will try to do a prod attack. You see the diagram. A whack could reach out and hit at a range of 2. Prod has to be adjacent, so we don't have to worry about the prod. The prod is still out of range. For my character, now I get to activate. When I activate my characters, I'm going to be looking at this board and I'm going to be using these tokens. I have 2 main actions and 1 minor action. In this case, I will be doing a minor action to gain myself some movement points. This will give me 3 movement points. And if I needed an extra movement point or 2, I could spend stamina to gain extra combo points and some movement points. I don't need it here. I can get close enough to them with 3 movement points though. And to go ahead and list it down, my shield's up there. That's the spots I'm going to cover with my shield. We are also going to do an attack here with our practice sword. And you see the practice sword is strength and it hits across. So we have to pick a health point, and that's the attack pattern based on the D20 roll that we make. All right, what's going to be our best spot here? If I go 1, 2, 3, yeah, we'll just get adjacent to him. I was thinking I might go up to the side of him. That's difficult terrain though because of the rock, so it would cost more movement points. That's all clear. I want to make sure that my ranged characters and the cleric has a way to get him in range. But we'll go ahead and commit to that single attack. All right, so we roll our first D20 and we got a 9, and we're going to have that 9 plus a strength of 1. That's going to make it a 10. Unfortunately, a 10 is not going to be enough for us to get into the second level for our attack. That's only going to be enough for a single attack. You see on our icon, we only got the 10. If we had gotten 12, we would hit 2. So we're only hitting a single health point on the dummy. So we're going to pick one to put it on. I don't want to add more to his threat. He's got a couple of spots that already need to hit threat. Let's see. That one's hitting. I'm trying to think of my next characters and who's hitting in what direction, because I want to cross some to be able to do some extra damage. And we'll just put it up here at the top and we'll just see how it happens. And we'll go ahead and spend our next action. Oh, before I forget to mention it, for moving, we do build up 1 combo point. I'll go ahead and spend my last action to make another attack with a sword, which is a 15. 15 plus 1 is 16. 16 will be enough for a hit across. Now, I don't have any that I can do that will hit a critical point. That's what I was so trying to do, is hit a critical point so I could get an extra point of damage. But there's none that I can do that will do that. Okay, we'll just hit the 2 there and call it. And now it is going to be me activating another threat card. And I need to get him to burn some of this threat because I don't want him to get up to the top, because then they get bonuses. All right, so let's go ahead and grab ourselves another threat card. Threat card is boss or 1, so they're going to get 1. I am going to be activating my ranger here. He is going to be doing a similar thing to what the warrior did, except he's going to be doing it from range. So he has a bow, he can fire from range, but he also has the ability to perform a mark action. When he performs a mark action, he can place a cube on a target and it will give him bonuses towards damaging that target. He can pay 1 magic point to deal an extra point of damage when he does get damage through, which is good. So we can attack at a range of 3 to 4. Can't attack at 1 to 2 if it's otherwise he has to use this, and attacks with a downward pattern. So let's see, 1, 2, yep, that'll get him in range. Move the ranger up. He's got range. I could spend a broadhead from his quiver to get 1 extra range if I need it, but I'm not going to need it on this attack. But by marking him, that gives me a piercing attack, which is exactly what I need. But actually, I am going to use, I'm going to spend another cube, and I'm going to spend the cube from the quiver. And the reason I'm doing so is because the quiver changes the attack pattern from the bow. The bow usually hits down. Now I want it to hit up. And I want it to hit up because he's got 2 health points there. I want to pierce his shield and take out both of those in a single hit. All right, let's pull this die out of the way. We've spent 1 minor action, 1 major action. We do gain another point for our combo. And now I need this to be a, 11 or higher. 11 or higher on the D20. Come on, baby, 11. 16. 16 will work. That's going to be a 17. That, just like our warrior's attack. A warrior attack went across. Now we are going up, and because I marked him, I was able to get the piercing, so I got to pick, and it goes there, and it changed the attack pattern from the down, which would have hit a already marked wound, instead to a up, which allowed me to take out his shield and that, but that has a critical point on it, which means he gets another point of threat. That's not good. But I'll tell you what I am going to do is, since I did mark him, I am going to spend 1 magic point to go ahead and add an extra hit to him. And so far, I have not been able to show you guys a critical point, but if you pass one of those criticals with a single hit, so a point like that, these little orange points, it causes damage to whatever area it's pointing at. I was just not able to successfully do that, but we're going to spend the extra magic point to do that. So he has 2 health remaining, but he has a buttload of threat. All right, let's see. We've still got our 2 characters left. Let's draw this. Let's have him attack. I need to show him attacking. Come on, cards. I need an attack from the back. I shuffled the hell out of these things. All foes. Here we go. Look at that. That was an all foes card. Wow. I'm doing that because I'm close to killing him, and I don't want to kill him just yet before he gets a chance to attack. I want to show you guys how he burns some of this threat. Okay, so he has 4 threat. He can spend 3 of it to make a single attack, and he's going to do prod +1, and he gets to move 4. Prod is adjacent, but he's getting that bonus damage to it. So he's not going to have to move. He can just take a swing directly at our warrior here. And the reason I wanted to show that to you guys is because they use these dice. These dice are excellent. They are target location dice. Think Kingdom Death Monster. So when you roll this die, it will tell you where the damage is going to be, whether it's the feet, the chest, the hands, the arms, everything, shoulders. It's excellent, excellent. And there are multiple different target dice because some enemies can only hit low, some will hit high, some will hit different areas. This one I think is just a general one that can hit a bunch of different areas. Excellent, excellent idea. I love this die. But let's go ahead and see where he is going to be doing his damage. Hopefully it'll be the chest or the arms because I've got stuff to block that on the warrior. And yes, he did hit one of the areas I was talking about. Look at this, I'm knocking everything around. So for the warrior, he actually hit right here. I've got the shield up in that location. Actually, you can block 2 locations with your shield. So I can eat part of that damage with the shield. The shield will take 1 point of wear. It has up to 3 points. Now that doesn't block both points of damage. It blocks 1 point of damage and 1 point still goes through. So my character will take a wound and go down from 4 health to 3. We'll mark it right there as so. And that will take care of that. It's just that simple. I love these location dice. They are so cool how they operate. Your armor, as you gain more armor throughout the game, it'll cover more and more of your character. It'll have more wear points, so it'll be able to take more damage and protect your character longer against some of those tougher monsters. All right, but that is for that threat card, which means I can activate someone else. And I'm trying to think, do I want to activate the mage or do I want to activate the cleric? I'm going to activate the cleric because I can actually do something with her that should be able to wipe him out in one turn. So we are going to spend one action for movement. We're going to spend one action for an attack. And then I am going to spend one more action to do a skill, which is going to be pummel. I will show you that here in just a second. So you see with our staff, it hits down and then we'll go across. It uses the endurance skill, which our cleric has a +1 in. So I get 3 points of movement. 1, 2, 3. Pointer right there. She's going to attack. And everyone, they didn't have to, but they included a colored D20 for every path. I just love that. Oh, and we gain one more combo point, but I'm going to be spending one of those here in just a second. So it doesn't matter what we roll, we can do at least one damage. It's going to be a 3. So that will do the single point. And with our remaining action, we are going to do a skill. And this skill is pummel. Requires a staff, takes 1 combo point, and each target in any adjacent square takes 1 damage of your choice. Directional, or pinpoint. They have 1 health remaining, which would add a threat, but it was the last health that the foe had, so the foe has been defeated. So once you defeat your foe, you topple them over, and then you will gain any rewards that the foe might have. In this case, for our practice dummy, that is going to be 1 guaranteed experience for all characters. And then we get a roll to see what else we get. 2 to 9 will be 1 money. 10 to 19 will be 2 money. And if you get a nat 20, you get a treasure chest item, which is very rare. Now, this is a one-off. So this is just one person rolls. It's not everyone, but everyone does get the experience points. And since our blue character didn't get to do anything, we will let her roll for it. Come on. Give me at least a, what do we want? At least a 10. A 10 would be nice to not. 14. 14 would be a couple of money. Okay, that's good. Everybody starts with 1, so we get a couple more. We're not getting a treasure chest item. Oh, look at that. The 20 was right next to it. You were so close. You were so close to getting the 20. Oh, man. I was hoping I would get a treasure chest item. But to show you guys, and I'm not going to pull anything out because I want this to be a surprise for me, there are these cute little treasure boxes that are just like this. Oh, don't lift it. Don't lift it. Ah, I almost caught myself. I didn't say anything. But anyway, that's generic items. That's pathless items. Anyone can use that. But there are treasure chests that are designated for each type of path, and those can only be used by those specific characters. And you'll get those in like quest rewards. So that would return us to our adventure mode. And just to show you guys, we'll continue on a little bit. I'm not going to keep showing everything because I want people to be able to experience it, but how does this go? It shows there's path down. All right, so basically this is a little underground section. It lines up, this shows their stairs down. I'm just going to place it here for ease. Or actually medium 0 is there, so it would line up like so. How does it line up? No, it lines up like so. Yeah, it should go there. I don't know. No, it has to line up there. And it would go like that. Anyway, there's basically a little underground area over here where we can go to a point of interest, and that's point of interest 0. So our characters go down into that little small cave. We find ourselves in a small cave. You can make out some sounds coming from outside. It doesn't seem like anyone has been back here for a while, but there's some sort of tracks in the dirt. So let's inspect the tracks. You see a pair of tracks leading deeper into the cave, Though it's quite dark in here, you think you could search for where the tracks end. You look around and you see intelligence 5. This is a check. You will have plenty of checks throughout your game. In this case, we can do the check versus intelligence, which means we just need a 5 or higher. We would have our mage do it since she has a bonus, so she would need a 4 or higher. If you fail, you can spend endurance to try to roll again. And if you succeed, you gain a key card. So let's go ahead and have her roll real quick. And she got an 8, so she did pass. So in this case, we would receive a key card that will give us something important for our upcoming quests. Now, I'm going to actually stop it here because the video has gone long enough that I've been able to show you enough of why I want to show you about the game. There's so much I like about it, but let me assure you, there is a massive amount of content in this game. I can't tell you the number of these different areas. And yes, they refer to these as tiles, but they're cards. They're big, different size cards. But the way that they design these using the cards gives so many places to go to. Different cave systems. You'll find a house and you'll go down into the basement and suddenly you'll find a cave and you'll start digging around. And it's just like the Elder Scrolls, right? Think Skyrim. When you step to the side for a second, you peek into a cubby hole, and an hour later, you finally come out after defeating innumerable amounts of foes and finding all this treasure and experience points. You get that experience in this game, and that's just amazing. One of the things I'll tell you though, the game is a table hog. When it comes to it, it's not too bad, because if you look, you've got your world map here, which isn't that big of a deal, but you're going to be spending a lot of time on these tiles, and that you don't know. Sometimes you might just be on one or two of them, and that doesn't take up too much space, but sometimes it will branch off. And something else that I need to show you while we're here at the table, don't forget there are 3 boards of this size for each character that you have. That's kind of table hoggy. You really only need to have 2 of them out at once. So you have like that, but like that for each character does start to add up. It takes up a fair amount of space. It's good space. It's fun space, but it's a fair amount of space. For someone like me, a war gamer, I've got the space for it. Others might find it a little snug. Anyway, let's go on back up. We'll do some final thoughts on the game. Sorry for not showing you more, but like I said, I don't want to spoil it. There's so much fun stuff. There's so much good stuff in this game that I want the surprises to be there for you. If you want to know more of what's coming up, there's other videos out there spoiling it that you can go watch. But this, I'm just showing just even a portion of the example of play. That way I'm not wrecking too much of it for you. If you want to experience it all fresh, I've only shown you about half of the example of play, but I covered enough that you understand the basics of most all of the game and how it plays. All right, so that was just a quick example of play. I only did just a portion of their example of play. I didn't spoil too much of it, but I'm not too worried about spoiling the example of play. You're meant to be walked through that one so you could kind of see how to get into the game. But the game has so much more depth than just that. That's like the beginner city in Skyrim, right? And you get done with that portion, or think Fallout 3 when it first came out, and you finally get out, and then your eyes open, you just see the huge wide world just open in front of you, and you're like, oh my God, where do I go next? That's kind of how this game works when it comes to getting through that little example of play. That you just have everything open to you. Now, of course, you're going to slowly expand out and find new areas, new enemies, new adventures, new jobs, new everything. I just was so tickled with how they did this game. The only real ding I can give it is it took a while to get here. But for this game, that's fine. I don't mind waiting if the final product is as good as it is. The components are excellent, especially I love the triple layered boards. that make it to where you can push down in it and pop the pieces out, but you can easily turn them back over, put them back in. They fit nice and firm. All the pieces are cut very well, so you don't have to worry about stuff falling out, which is good because you're going to be moving a lot of pieces around. But that way, as you gain skills, gain abilities and whatnot, you explore the map. You do have the ability to flip things back over and return it to its base components if you want to do that. But there's so much adventure, it would take you a long, long, long time to get through this game. And even if you did a whole playthrough of the game, there would still be a plethora of extra content out there that you hadn't actually experienced yet. So a new playthrough could expose new things that you didn't see the first go around. And they did things that they didn't really have to do that just gave that little extra bit of flair. Like the D20s for each one of the different paths. Each path came with its own D20 and its color. They didn't have to do that. They could have just included, 2 or 3 D20s. They could have even just included one and called it a day, but they gave each path their own D20, and that just had that little bit extra flair that made it that much more worthwhile. I like the metal money. You guys didn't see too much of that because I didn't mess too much with the money during my little playthrough of the game, but it's got metal components for that. It's got a little wooden squill token because squills are the things that you're after. It's different. The money is called KAE, and I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it. I think it's Kai, K, whatever it is. And squills are basically the tokens that you need to get victory, right? I don't want to spoil too much of the story, but those are the actual tokens, and they included an example of one. So there's a little wooden token in there for that, the squills that you're after. When it does come to the components, one of the things that did, set a little off with me is the tiles, the map tiles. They're not really tiles. They're poster card. They're basically cards, right? Big cards, different size cards. And because of that, they're thinner, so they will warp a little bit. So you could see that one of the medium tiles was warped a little bit at the corners. It's not that big of a deal. Pretty easy. You can, bend it just a little bit to put it back into place. But I am perfectly willing to make a concession for very thin tiles because there are so many of them. They are, God, I can't even count. There's hundreds of them, and all the different sizes, the big ones, the medium ones, the small ones, the long ones. And like I said, that's one of the parts of the game that I like so much because so many other RPG-esque dice chucker games out there, the Ameritrash, they come with the cardboard layout, right? The cardboard tiles that you're going to put together to make your map. And usually these are front and back. They show maybe outside and inside, but you'll have 20. You may fit 12 to 20 or so in a game. And that can be put together in a number of different ways, but it's not really that many different ways. And the tiles will always have the same thing on them. Here, by having effectively hundreds of those tiles, it gives them the ability to have each location that you go to be its own unique area. They don't have to try to fit the story into 20 pre-made tiles, right? They can have a fiery dungeon. They can have castles. They can have tunnels. They can have basements. They can have a small little village that you visit. You can have all of those different areas, just like you would experience in a digital RPG. You can have that same experience here down at the table. And I just love how the map kind of expands out as you're going along. You can see it very briefly in the example of play that you start on the big tile. Then they move to the medium tile where they had their little battle with the training dummy. And then they found the small tile that had a little cave alcove there that had a little point of interest where they could explore that. And you can have that experience in so many different areas. For example, later on, you'll find a house, you'll explore around, you find a house, you go down into the basement, then you find a tunnel leading off from the basement, and then the tunnel keeps branching and branching and branching off, and you're finding these new and different areas, and what you thought was originally just going to be A house, well, it's not just a house. It has all these different map tiles that end up coming together to show like all these different areas. Even if you just go to a village and it might just be a house, you see the roof at first, but when you enter it, it gives you a card that you'll lay on top so you can see inside of the building that you're going to. I just really think they've done such an excellent job with the exploration aspect of this game. Also, combat is very well done because it is deep and strategic, but very easy to understand. With all of the dice rolls being based off of d20s, it's not hard to understand how combat or even checks are going to be performed because you just see what number you have to meet, you roll your d20, and if you have skills, wisdom, intelligence, strength, dexterity, that type of stuff, they can give you bonuses towards certain actions that require those skills. But for example, with combat, it is strategic and tactical in the way that your weapons do directional damage. A sword might slice across, whereas a staff might strike down, or you can strike diagonally with a dagger. They all have different patterns. And because the enemies that you fight have different icons located on their cards, if you are able to perform a strike correctly, you can cross one of those critical points where you get to do that extra point of damage. And by doing it correctly, you might be able to wipe that mob out with one single hit if you're able to focus your attack and hit their critical points. But if you end up hitting just one of their, I forget exactly what they call it, but the point that adds extra threat, well, it's going to make the enemy just that little bit more dangerous. So you have to be careful. You hit those points, well, now they're gaining threat. And just like you gain your combo points to be able to perform your special abilities, they're going to gain threat to perform their special abilities. So hitting the enemy incorrectly can cause them to become even more powerful as combat progresses. Plus, combat will change later on in the game because that threat deck that is used to activate the enemies, whether it's adding threat, activating the mobs, activating the boss, or activating everyone, you're going to add cards to that deck later on that will change how the threat deck will perform. Maybe you get some cards that increase your luck. You do something good, so you get to add a certain card to that threat deck that will make you do better at combat. Or maybe you do something that has fatigued your party, or you've got some curse upon you and now you're adding a negative card to that threat deck. So it doesn't stay the same throughout the game. You're going to be pulling cards in and out of that, and you can even change it when you go to things like the guild hall or a town and you perform things like rest actions. Also, the armor, that is one of the better ways that I've seen armor be used in a game, because in other games, the armor's static, right? It's just static. It provides a point or 2 points of damage mitigation, and that can be kind of hard to work around because then the later enemies have to do more and more damage to make up for the fact that you could have a lot of armor. But what if you haven't got the armor? Well, now these enemies are just going to be ruffle stomping you because you didn't find certain pieces along the way, and now you're taking too much damage. Here, the armor is there, but it only provides so much mitigation. It's kind of like Kingdom Come Deliverance, the second one just released too. Very excellent game. Where your armor will take damage. And usually I don't like durability. I usually hate durability in games. But here I think it's done actually fairly well to signify that your armor and your shields, they can only take so much damage before that's going to start bleeding through into you. The warrior, for example, can have some armor components, some hands and some greaves and all that good stuff, but then he's got a shield. He can put that shield up, blocking a couple of zones on his body. And if he gets hit there, well, now that wear goes to his shield rather than him. And then again, any remaining damage points will go through, so there can be some bleed over. But it allows the armor to perform in a way you would kind of expect armor to actually behave. It will mitigate some, but not all damage, and it will only last so long before you got to go knock the dings out of it. Honestly, there's so many aspects of the game that I just love. I could talk about it forever. I'm not going to keep droning on about it. if you are into those dungeon crawly type games, dice chuckers, the Ameritrash, this is one that's really worth getting. I think now's a good time to check. They might have a few extra copies you can maybe try to buy from them retail, but the secondary market's going to be flooded most at this time because a lot of people are getting their copies in and they're trying to sell them. It's going to be your best bet to get a copy for not a huge amount of extra cost. You are going to pay above what the Kickstarters were charged. That's just how it is on the secondary market. These people sell them for profit. I get it. Avoid Game Steward because their prices are always 2 to at least 3 to 4 times what the Kickstarter price was. You can get it, but God, you're going to pay through the nose for it. But if you can find a copy for not too much more, it's absolutely worth getting. There's unending content in the game. The components are excellent, and it really is just a fun game. My girls, they love it. They love it. They've been playing it with me. They had so much fun creating their characters. If you've got kids that enjoy the RPGS style gameplay and want to tell a story, this is really one that they would enjoy. And it's not so difficult that younger kids can't play it. My girls are 6 and 8, and they have a lot of fun playing the game because it's not too difficult to understand. Roll the dice. Hey, what number's on the dice? And then they add a 1 or 2 or whatever to it. I did give my girls a couple extra points of health just to, help them out just a little bit because they're younger. But hey, as long as we're having fun with a game, that's all that really matters. And this is one you're going to have fun. All right, that's going to be it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Y'all stay tuned for some more good stuff I've got coming up, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.